Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the ACHA Power Play Live right here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. And, of course, on our Facebook page, the Captain Lou Extravaganza Facebook page. And also on X Live, as always, at the Real Captain Lou. We invite you, as always, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is the Captain Lou Sports Network. You can get all of our programming live and archived, including all of our ACHA Power Play episodes, including tonight's episode 5 of season 10. Can you believe it already? Season 10 is upon us here on the ACHA Power Play. The road to St. Louis 2026 is in full gear. We're about 4 months and change away from puck drop in the national tournament. It's going to be here before we know it. So can't wait to get there, but we got a lot of great hockey. Before that, we've got the showcases coming up in Chicago in about 3 weeks for the Big Ten showcase and the ACHA, the Division I showcase, with some dynamite matchups over there the weekend before Thanksgiving. But talk about dynamite matchups. I can't wait to talk to our first guest here momentarily. We're going to get him on, the head coach of Maryville University. You talk about a murderer's row of scheduling to get them ready for the national tournament. We're going to talk about that and about last year's great run to the championship game. Actually, let's bring him in right now. I think he's ready to go, warming up in the bullpen. Tommy Lange, the head coach of Maryville University, joining us here tonight. How are you doing, Tom?
Good, Lou. How are you?
Fantastic. I appreciate you coming on in such short notice. Fun start to the schedule. Good run for you. The latest rankings are out, and your ladies are up to number 4. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's good. Like you kind of mentioned earlier in your little pre-segment before I hop on, it's murderer's row for us. And as much as we don't want to be 500, you're okay with it at the same time. We've played number 1, number 3, number 4, and number 8.
Yeah.
So, again, you can't complain, but as a coach, we can always look to have better.
So before we get into this year, I just want to take a quick look back. I know it was a heartbreaking loss in double overtime in the final, but your ladies had a heck of a run going into that national tournament up to the final. The win over over Adrian in the semifinal, and before that in the pool play. First, how did you like the pool play as opposed to years past when it was kind of a double elimination tournament?
Yeah, we've experienced both of them before this year, or before last year. We had only experienced the 10-team tournament where you win and you get a day off.
Yeah.
So we had that luxury previous 2 years, and then we didn't do great the year before last,
Mhm.
where we didn't get a day off and lost. But I thought it was great. If you play a hard schedule or whatever it may be to put yourself in the situation, I love this year's and last year's format where you play 2 games, you get that day off before the semis. It's huge.
Yeah.
It was vital for us to be able to rest our girls and get a video day in and get a recovery day, and then prep ourselves for Adrian. And obviously, a little hot start there, and we took our foot off the gas and let them back in the game. But at the end of the day, we got the job done, and then. Yeah, as you said, the Liberty game was a great one for our university and ourselves to experience, and you got to trust the process. And um, you know uh, somebody's got to lose in that game, and it's going to be a heartbreaker for one team and the greatest moment for the other. And we're kind of using that hopefully as redemption going into this weekend and fuel to the fire for our championship run going towards next March.
It's funny is you see that a lot. You talked about the Adrian game in the semifinal last year. You jumped out to that good lead. I don't care what sport you're in, football, basketball, hockey, baseball. It's so natural to kind of let up. You
Yeah.
think, in the back of your mind, it's just human nature. But I think what is equally important is you didn't let the lead totally evaporate, and you were able to keep that mindset after a while and, get there to the final.
Yeah, it's something we preach and, at least ourselves and most mainly in college hockey, it's not, most games are a race to three. Well, we had three in the first 10 minutes of the first period. So it was, trying to keep the girls even keel, keep the momentum going. And then after that, it became once we gave them one, let's not give them two. Well, we gave them two, we can't give them three, and we were able to respond before the end of the second to go up 4-2. And then when they made it 4-3 with about 4 minutes left, we knew the push was coming, and then once we got time and space, we buried a 180 footer to cap it off with just under a minute left.
Yeah. So fast forward now to this year, and you played Adrian in your first weekend at home. And wow, a 1-0 shutout win there. Great game to start off the year. Not a little hairy for you, maybe, but a great game, exciting game to get started off on the regular season.
Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, do you want an easy game or do you want to get right into the fire, as I say? And we'd always love an easy game. We were supposed to have a series the weekend prior, but that team canceled on us in June. And you know what? Let's take an extra week of prep for that game. And, we didn't reschedule that series. So, again, good test. And then we had a weekend off and then we went to Minot. So it worked out just fine. But at the end of the day, you're a college student athlete. You want to play the best teams to prepare ourselves. And our conference, is kind of murderer's row, whichever way you want to look at it. We got 6 teams in the top 11 right now, um, and we play all of them. So there's no running from anybody, and that's what I tell the girls. Like, hey, we're playing the best, so that at the end of the year, it's just another game. It's just another. It's just got a different logo on it. It's the national championship tournament, but we're playing the same teams we played all year.
Is it easier to schedule the non-conference games once you've tasted some success, Tom?
Yeah, I think, and the nice thing is now teams want to play us. Where the first 2 years we were bagging teams outside of our conference to play. Now we have teams knocking call and saying, "Hey, we want to come through St. Louis. We want to play McKendree, Maryville, and Lindenwood." So it's great for us that we've put ourselves in that situation, and now we can continue to grow our product and grow the brand in the University of Maryville, and cast that net out there to obviously US, but all of Canada also.
So, and then we touched on it. You're playing the number 2 team in the country, Liberty, right now, and then after that, it doesn't get any easier. That non-conference game against Arizona State. Then you got Indiana Tech before the Thanksgiving, I believe.
Mhm.
It's
And then number 6, Michigan Dearborn, right after
that's right.
Thanksgiving break.
That's
So
right.
you're in one whichever way you look at it. But at the end of the day, again, if you play a tough schedule, your girls are just in another game come our WMCH conference tournament, which the top 5 teams could easily win a national championship. So you're playing those games all day long.
You girls, one of the stats that Tom that I noticed with your girls was Haley Beckett. She's got 10 points, 4 of them on the power play. You've scored a lot of power play goals to start out.
Yeah. Well, it's no secret, Lou. You saw the shot last year with your great goal call, and many more of them last year. I mean, she had what 20 something goals last year as a freshman, and she's got 7 already this year. You teams know you give her time and space, she's got a cannon of a shot, and she's accurate with it. So, um, it's one of those things of those are the players we're able to attract now. Years 1 through 3, we were getting our foot wet and tapping into some waters where now we've got players, and her center Leah Sutton, she's a fantastic player too. Played with her for in Barry the year before she came here to Maryville, and so I was trying to get her the previous year, and luckily she stuck to it and came the following year after a grad year.
And I look at your roster, you got your gals were so young last year too, Tom. And I mean, you got so many sophomores and juniors, not a lot of seniors. That's got to be a good feeling for you with the success you had last year.
Yeah, it's great. It's trust in the process. We lost 6 or 7 girls last year that were starting the program with us that did 5th years that
Mhm.
wanted to see it through, and we fell a post here and a miss clear and a block shot there away from first ever national championship for us. But again, sometimes you have to lose and feel that pain before you can win. And hopefully, with that process we had to go through last year, and we're gonna keep moving forward and put ourselves in a situation where we can succeed come the national tournament with a group that's been in there already and not jumping right in with 8 or 9 freshmen.
Nice. Sorry about that. You got to love the technology with the internet up here in Michigan, kind of cutting in and out. So after the tournament last year, the gals, they had the summer off. When do you start preparation for the next year? When do you get in for practice and whatnot?
Practices, we had 2 or 3 practices before the girls left school early May.
Okay.
But they took about 10 days off after the national tournament, and then they were back in the weight room 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, training before they left school.
Do they have? Is there any kind of regulation with the ACHA? That's the one thing I've always wondered. Off-season workouts, time that you can spend with them. Is there any type of regulation with that?
None that we're aware of. I mean, we do once a month Zoom calls during the summer, just checking in on as a team, and they're in group workout groups, so holding each other accountable for their summer fitness testings that they do throughout the whole from our workout program that we set them up with, and just touch base. You got to let them get away from the game, and our thing that I told the girls was don't touch the ice till late June, early July.
Okay.
You can go out once a week, have fun, but don't go 2, 3 times, 4 times a week in June, because it's an 8-month season. We gotta make sure when you come, you know, late July, early August, yeah, ramp it up 3, 4 times a week. But let's make sure we take time away from the game to reflect on the great season we had, enjoy some family time and with your friends, and past teammates. And then now it's time to get back into business once you get to campus.
You just said something that, I talk with a lot of coaches again, too, is it's an 8-month season. That's a long year. And is it ever difficult? I know the success that you've had in the last couple of years, but is there any difficulty sometimes with the focus, like where the gals might come into a game not with their 100% game face on, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a tricky process to navigate. You got guys, no big deal. I left home at 17. See you
Yeah.
later. These girls, unless they're at boarding schools or prep schools, this is the first time they're leaving home. So, I do our best to make sure early in the season at 1 or 2 games we have a nice long weekend off to where they can travel home if they want to see family. Because even for myself and my playing days in the minors and in Europe, like after 10, 12 weeks, you hit a brick wall if you're not enjoying it, and you need a breath of fresh air. So sometimes, whether it's the families coming down for opening weekend or getting that off weekend and the girls can go home to Toronto, or they can take a long weekend and fly home to Alberta, just those first year girls, it makes it rough on them when it's their first time away from home and they don't know anything else rather than going home to mom and dad, brother, sister, um, 7 nights a week.
Where did you get this pipeline for all your Canadian players, Tom?
Hard work? No.
Sure,
I go to Stony Creek every year. I spend 5 days in Toronto, and then you get some teams there from Western Canada. It's a 64 team tournament, so it's a massive deal, and it's big on the girls' side. And so you get some Western teams that will travel down. You start networking there, and then you find some girls from there, and then start watching some of their games out west. And you gotta I'd love to get out to Calgary and that in the tournaments out there in BC, but it's one of those things that's a hike for me. I got 3 kids under 5 here with wife. Like I just can't get up and roll. So it's instead it's you know knowing some of the coaches and having them send me some stuff on films, and obviously you got representatives sending you things on players. So there's a lot of different avenues now that have opened up that were not there for me 5 years ago when we started the program.
Tom, here's another thing you just said. And, I praise the kids for their discipline and their dedication and their hard work. Oh my, how do you find time for this with 3 kids under 5, man? Do you sleep?
I get some sleep, energy drinks, coffee. I like, tonight I made dinner. I'm there. The kids and family are eating right now. I'm hopping on this and I'll eat and get them to bed then. And then I'll hop on and do some more recruiting emails and, watch some film on players and then prep for obviously Liberty.
Yeah.
Luckily I've got an assistant coach last year with Zach Levy and he's back again this year. So that takes some weight off of my shoulders for that, but you still got to do it as a head coach and prep and do player breakdown film and, show them where they need to succeed and where they got to pull the reins back if they're cheating on some areas of the zone. So, to your point, 12:30 at night, pass out, wake up at 6 and,
Wow.
grind away. And, as I joked, the closers drink coffee and energy drinks. So we got to figure out how to. I always joke with John, and he's a little heartbroken that you chose me first over him for an interview, but he told me to tell you hi.
Well, I
Uh,
appreciate that.
he's a little sad today when I told him I was coming on, but it's one of those things where you got to do what you got to do if you want to win, and you got to put in that time and commitment and whatever sacrifices a coaching staff has to make, the players have to make the same sacrifice away from the rink. And be away from their friends and family and trust that, hey, I'm 26 hours away from home. This coach is going to take care of me. He's going to put me in the best situation to win a hockey game and become a better person and graduate with a degree.
Yeah, it's an exciting time right now for Maryville hockey. Men's and women's, both teams really, really doing well. Um, what, if anything, Tom, that the gals again are they're fourth ranked. What do you think, if there's one thing that you need to work on, maybe to just, I don't know, take that next step or whatever to keep sharp? What would that be?
I'd just say consistency. I mean, you'll look one game we'll get shut out 3-0. The next game we win 5-2.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't have our chances. We just haven't buried on the mistakes against. And again, you're playing high quality teams every single
Oh,
game so far. So, you know, we we give up a turnover, that team scores. Okay, how do we rebound? Okay, we hit the post. Theirs goes posting in. It's just that been that way. And again, it's early in the season. You're going to have those breaks that you get and you don't get. But again, it's all back to those trials and tribulations that you put them in early in the season. So, look at last year. Was it in the cards to have the national championship game go into double OT and be almost 4 hour long game calling the game? No, but again, that's what you want. It's I talked with Chris all the time, and it's one of the best. And even Craig and Lloyd and those guys said it's been the best national championship game they've seen on the women's side maybe ever.
oh,
That was with not just one sided or the back and forth. I mean, that game could have went either way about 15 times in the first overtime with the amount of pressure we had, the post that we hit, the chances that we missed on or Keith made a great save, and then same for them. They miss high and wide or Cadring makes a great save or just there was pressure. It was great to be a part of. It's just again, at the end of the day, somebody's got to lose. And if that game went any longer, I'm sure everybody would have just said, somebody score a goal here, please. Because there was times they were running on fumes and we had them dead to rights. And then there was obviously times they had us dead to rights. Um, but again, that's what you live for. That's what you want. And, we hope to be back there this year. And obviously we see them in 4 days. So with a nice little midnight madness game.
oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's great. I that'll be fun to keep an eye on. I'm going to try to watch that, especially the Midnight Madness games. Those are always fun.
Yeah.
Tom, before I let you go, again, tell us a little bit about your playing experience before you got into coaching at Maryville.
Yeah, so I knew my dream was to play pro hockey. So um, left home at 17. Decided went to Boston for a year, played juniors there. Decided, hey, you know what? I had some offers in the queue. Went there, blew out my knee for 18 months, came back, and then started in the old IHL.
Yeah.
So that's when I got a nice humble slice of pie at 21, going against 30-year-olds and realizing there's man strength out there. You're not strong at 21 until you go up against a 30-year-old that's played, maybe in the NHL,
Yeah.
and just on the downswing of his career and still enjoys and loves the game. So, played all throughout the U.S. and then played half a season in Europe before I decided to come back. And again, thought it was some of the best, made friendships forever. People in my wedding party that I hadn't seen, in 2 years, but we talk all the time, FaceTime. Just again, same things that these girls are going through now. As I tell them, well, I had a brotherhood, you have a sisterhood, and you're gonna, that team last year is gonna be bonded for life for what they did, and it's no different every single year. And that's one of the great things about college hockey is you're going to remember these groups of girls for the rest of your life, just like I remember the 7 years of playing hockey I did, and the cities I went to, and the experiences I've had in each city and in Europe, with traveling on off weekends. Like those are times that you can never get back, and that's the beauty of this sport. And obviously here at Maryville, we're very fortunate to where we're located that we can still offer those experiences while they're playing college hockey.
Who was your team growing up? NHL.
I'm from St. Louis. Brett Hall.
All right.
That's why I grew up on the Hall and Oates show.
There you go.
That's when St. Louis obviously got put on the map, and then obviously there's another burst here with the cup run that we had in 19 winning that. You can see the numbers tick up in youth hockey a bunch, and since the PWHL started and the other league before that, you saw another rise in female hockey. And when I got done playing hockey, I coached the AAA Lady Blues here in St. Louis, and we went to some national championships. But I only had 6 or 7 local girls on the team, and the rest came from out of town, other different states. Now they have 18 of 20 girls that are AAA talent playing here in St. Louis. So that just goes to show you the drastic growth in not only hockey, but female hockey here in the Midwest, and especially in St. Louis.
Well, Tom, I appreciate you taking time out. I know you got a busy schedule. Taking time out to be with us. Your enthusiasm is contagious. Keep up the great work at Maryville. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. Hope to see you back in St. Louis in March with another run. Thanks for taking time out to be with us.
I appreciate, knock on that wood, for no tornadoes this time around too.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But,
yeah, for sure.
That was something. We didn't know where we were going. We're trying to manage ice, and okay, you're going here, you're going there. These games are all moved to Maryville. Okay, here's another subsidiary Maryville game for you guys to have. Hey, it worked out. We got a home game. Not going to complain about that for ourselves, but yeah, and the same goes for you, Lou. Thank you for all you do for ACHA and calling all those games at nationals. And yeah, I know the families love it, and they talk about it, and they all loved your goal calls for us. That I know I heard about that, and the girls replaying them. So hopefully this year, we're in that same situation, and we got double the size of a crowd for you to call.
I hope so too. All right. Well, safe travels to Liberty this weekend, and we'll catch up with you real soon. Thanks, Tom.
I appreciate your time, and thank you for having me on.
You bet. He's Tom Lange. He's the head coach of the University of Maryville University, ranked number 4 in the latest polls in the ACHA Women's Top 15. We're going to go over that and some of the other rankings as it's getting to be where you really want to start paying attention to those, especially on the men's side. The first D1 men's computer rankings are coming out, but we'll go over those rankings as well. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. You're watching the ACHA Power Play right here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. Hi, everybody. Captain Lou here. Hey, is there a ball game you want to go to last minute? How about the Spartans at Spartan Stadium? Go to the Big House to watch the Wolverines. Is there an NFL game you want to go to? Lambeau Field, Ford Field, wherever, Baltimore. How about the Tigers for the pennant drive? Well, go to SeatGeek. Get those tickets there. Use the promo code Captain Lou right on the screen, and you'll get $20 off of your purchase. It's that simple. So go to the Spartan game. Go to the Big House. But use the promo code Captain Lou at SeatGeek, and you'll be all set. Absolutely. If there's any game you want to go to this weekend, NHL, NBA, the NFL, you name it, go to SeatGeek. If there's a show you want to go to, use the promo code Captain Lou too. You get $20 off of that purchase. Thanks again to Tom Lange for coming on, the head coach of Maryville University. That run to the finals and then that epic final game against Liberty. Yeah, it's right. You hate to see somebody win. Somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to lose. You hate to see somebody lose, but that was probably one of the top 3 hockey games that I've ever called in my life. And that was such a thrill. Double overtime, 2-1 win for Liberty over Maryville. Maryville jumped out to the lead, and the crowd there at St. Louis at Centene was awesome. And so they've got a lot to grow on, and Tom's done a wonderful job with that program. They have really taken the steps to get to be a national powerhouse, and they're right there. And we talked about it. And again, let's take a look at real quick again at their schedule first, at what they've played this year. They started out with the 8th ranked team, Adrian. Then they played Minot, who in the latest rankings right now is ranked 5th. And then they played McKendree, and they played, then they've got Liberty coming up, and then they're going to play Arizona State, and then University of Michigan, Dearborn. All these games, all these series are going to be before they go on Christmas break. And so they've got Lindenwood, they've got Indiana Tech. I mean, we said it, a murderer's row. It's right there. And then once the end of the year comes up, and then they go back to January after Christmas break, rather, they're going to have Lindenwood for a couple. Actually, that Lindenwood series is going to be after Christmas. Then they play Jamestown, and then Midland again, and then McKendree, and then Liberty. I mean, it's just, if that doesn't get you ready for a national tournament, that schedule, nothing will. So that's, but it's like he said, and you talk to any coach out there, I don't care what sport you play, those are the games you want to play. You want to play against the best. You want to measure yourself against the best teams. And that's what they're doing right now. And again, it was such a thrilling time for them last year with that run to the Nationals. And, he mentioned it, the crazy weather that we had down in St. Louis with the tornado warnings, the tornadoes, everybody came together to make sure that tournament got completed. And it was just, again, such a great effort, such a great time, and can't wait to be a part of that as the road to St. Louis in 2026 is well underway. All right, let's go look at those standings. The latest standings just came out about a half hour before we came on the air tonight. Midland right now is back on top again at number 1. And then you've got Liberty at number 2. McKendree is at number 3. Maryville up 1 to number 4. And then it's Minot at number 5. U of M Dearborn stays at number 6 this week. Arizona State at 7. Adrian College at 8. Miami's at 9. Then Niagara's at 10. Jamestown is at 11. Michigan down to 12. UMass at 13. Indiana Tech at 14. And then Lake Superior State coming in at number 15. So again, how it works for the national tournament this year, the top 12 teams are in it, and they play round robin, 2 games against each other. And then the winners of each pool go into the semifinals. And then the finals, semifinals and finals this year will take place on March 18th through the 22nd. That's when the championship game will be. And so it's going to be, again, could be 5 straight days, or you get that one day off, and then you have the semifinals and the finals, on that. But it is a little different. This will be the second year of that format. Beforehand, it used to be like a double elimination tournament. If you won, you got a day off, and then the top 2 teams got all the way to the quarterfinals. So I think I like this format better because each team is guaranteed 2 games, and you've got a better chance, a little bit more even of a chance to get to the semifinals. So, all right, speaking of the rankings, real quick, let's get to the men's Division III rankings. These are the first ones of the year in D3. Now, these are going to change a little bit because some of the teams that you don't see on here have just started playing, and I'm going to use Calvin for an example. They're 3-0-1 right now. They're getting their season started, but I'm not going to take anything away from Middle Tennessee State. They're ranked number 1 in the country right now in men's Division III. And then some newcomers, teams that we used to see back in the day. Now they're back in the fold in the ACHA down out of the College Hockey South. Great to see Tampa back. They're ranked 2nd. Oakland, the Golden Grizzlies, a powerhouse from 10 years ago. They're ranked 3rd. South Florida is 4th. Nebraska, Omaha, 5th. Grand Valley at 6th. We know they're a powerhouse. South Carolina at 7. Clemson at 8. Northwood at 9. Michigan State at 10. You've got Dordt at 11. Pittsburgh, Johnstown at 12. Lawrence Tech at 13. St. Vincent at 14. Central Florida back in the fold at 15. and UMass at 16. And right on the outside looking in, you got Western Michigan, Embry-Riddle out of Florida, and Miami at 19. So those are the rankings in men's Division III. Obviously, we're going to keep an eye out on those. And then the men's Division I rankings, again, this is the coaches poll. We'll go through those at the end of the show. The computer rankings, the first ones are due out anytime, either today or tomorrow. If for some reason they come on before we get off the air, we'll bring them to you, but not, they'll be posted. I'll share them on all my social media channels. All right, let's bring in our next guest. Former longtime head coach at Davenport, a part of that program for such a long time. Now in a new venture, it's an exciting one called network38.org. Let's bring him. Bill, how are you? You have a little issue with your microphone. Try that one more time. Let's see if we can't kick them back in here. All right. Live stream. Oh, we seem to be having a little bit of issue with his microphone. We'll see if we can't. Let's take a quick 30-second break. We'll come back. Oh, he's going to try to hop back on. Okay, we'll keep it right here. Why don't we do this real quick? Let's go into the men's Division I rankings while we've got time. He's going to try to hop back on. We've got Nevada, Las Vegas still on top at number 1. Now, these rankings were as of last week, like we said. The first computer rankings are coming out here very, very shortly. Earlier, potentially as we're on the air right now. But if not, we'll make sure to get those rankings for you by next week. But in the latest rankings, Nevada, Las Vegas 1, Minot 2, Ohio 3, Adrian 4, Liberty 5, Jamestown 6, Drury 7th, Niagara 8th, Maryville 9, Calvin 10th, Grand Canyon 11th, Mary 12, Utah 13, University of Pittsburgh 14, and Arizona 15. Okay, let's see if we could try it now. Let's see if we can get them back on. There. Hiya, Phil. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for taking time out to be with us tonight. We'll get to your venture here momentarily. Tell everybody that may not know your coaching experience that you had, the run that you had with Davenport.
It was a great experience. Thank you for having me on. I was with Davenport for over 20 years, coached golf there as well, and started the women's program, but was a part of an awesome time at DU. We won 4 national championships, 3 in Division II and 1 in Division I with, Paul Loudon, our AD. And, I was able to take over for him, and it was a lot of fun. It really, really was. Great community of people. And, we had a lot of success too, which really helps.
Well, from when you started and then progressing through the 2010s and whatnot at the end of this decade, I started really being involved with it back in 2016, 2015. It's grown in the last 10 years. I mean, I can't imagine what you've seen from 20 years ago. Just, if nothing else, the popularity of the ACHA, how the name has grown.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences is seeing how much success we've had against the NCAA schools.
Yeah.
Just some of the caliber of talent that we get in the ACHA. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of kids are seeing the value of going to some of the ACHA schools and the opportunities that they get because the ACHA coaches, we care about our players. We really, really do. We see them day in, day out. And I'm not saying the NCAA doesn't, but it's just one of those things that we're really making sure that our guys are successful and have a career path for when they leave the ACHA and our teams. And it's not always pro hockey.
Right.
It's how are we going to make these guys, as I always said, our goal is to make guys better husbands and great fathers at our school. And the way to do that is they got to be successful off the ice. And I think the ACHA does a great job of balancing the skill, the talent, the hard work on the ice, but off the ice, I see coaches go above and beyond for their players and really, really make sure that their family is set up for their future to come.
One of the things that I think the stigma has gone away, and it's that nasty 4-letter word, club.
Yeah.
And, because I used to hear about it, when I first started, broadcasting the games with Aquinas and doing these podcasts, it's like, no, it's more than just that. And I think a lot of parents back in the day had these aspirations of these kids are going to go pro. And it's such a minute percentage of them that actually do.
Yeah, and even to go pro, like we've had guys go play pro over in Europe. They play semi-pro. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we always pushed at Davenport was it's great to go play pro hockey and especially go over to Europe. But we challenge our guys to get their master's degree while they're over there. So they would leave, they're getting out at juniors at 21, play for 4 or 5 years here. And then if they go over to Europe, if they come back from Sweden or Germany or France at 30 years old, but they have a master's degree and they've mastered a second language, now they're really putting themselves on a path to success instead of just being, a 30-year-old greenhorn getting into the business world.
And I think the other thing too is once these parents have realized, and the kids, is that there's still only a handful of, NCAA D1 and D3 schools. And this is just a great alternative, like you mentioned, to get that education and play.
I mean, just the professional way that a lot of these teams run their program, the university's investing back in the program by, making their coaches full-time. So they have full, their full concentration is to the kids and making sure not only does the program develop, but again, just not to beat a dead horse, but just making sure that they're successful. And that's like with grades and making sure they're doing study tables. They just have the time to do that stuff. And another one being full-time is you really get to recruit the players that you want. Instead of just hoping that guys show up to your school, you can actually go out and target better citizens, like better students, and people that are going to work hard for 4 or 5 years and leave the program better than they found it. And that's a huge thing that I've noticed over the past, I'd say 8 to 10 years in the ACHA is how many full-time coaches that are there and just the amount of like good kids that they're producing out of their programs.
You talked about recruiting. How much easier is it when you got out of coaching as opposed when you started back almost 20 years ago?
I could go both ways, right? I could say it was easier 20 years ago because we had 6 North American League teams in our state, and there weren't as many teams. Like now you have the WAC conference. You have, a lot of teams that were D3 have moved up to D1. So it's way more competitive in the Great Lakes region, just in this area here, where you'd only have a couple schools you're competing against. And you had powerhouses out of Detroit and, some of like Windsor and Toronto, like there weren't a lot of teams drawing from that. Now you have so many schools in this area. It's way more competitive. However, on the flip side, the ACHA has done such a better job of branding itself as a great source of hockey and just a great avenue for these kids to go to school. I know we've had a lot of the commissioners like Brian Moran and some of the other guys that have been there for a long time. I know Paul's sat on the board and Paul Hebert and those guys have done such a good job of just advancing the ACHA and it's just so it's easier. The name recognition is a lot more noticeable in these junior leagues and some of the younger leagues as well. The ACHA has done a great job of, like you said, getting rid of that 4-letter word to where it was, almost felt like a glorified beer league at time. But now it's I don't even want to say it's an alternative anymore. Sometimes it's a destination.
No, that's a great word for it right there, to destination, because it's a great destination for these players to get a great degree. And that's one of the things that I always tell people too when they ask me about it. What do you miss most about coaching?
Oh man, everything, right? Like it's just it's tough. Like Jeremy's done an awesome job with Davenport. They're able to make that position full time, which is great, so needed. And I miss the relationships you build with the guys. I got to know their families so well, and I'm a personable guy. Like I was always an open door guy.
Yeah.
So it's just, I miss that. I miss going to, they played Indiana Tech, seeing my boy Frank down there, and they got to go play Louisville and seeing my boy Grambo down there, and just, Calvin, seeing, Josh and Joe, my old goalie coach, and just the relationships you build with the coaches, like, the hour before a game. It's just fun to catch up and see, how those guys' families are doing and all of that. So I miss everything about it, to be honest with you. I really do. It's nice to have a weekend off. So
Right.
I will say that, it's my daughter going to her events is kind of fun too. So again, there's pros and cons to everything, but yeah, I really miss the guys but Jeremy's done an awesome job with what he's building and how he's changing the culture of that program.
Oh, he has done an amazing job, and they're playing really well this year. That's for sure. That's for sure. So, Phil, what inspired you to create network38.org?
Yeah, thank you. So, over the past 20 years, what we developed was I really wanted to develop a golden triangle of recruiting for us. And that was Grand Rapids to Toronto, through Detroit to Chicago, and back around. And I really wanted to hammer that area for our guys. And the reason being was there's a lot of good hockey players in that area. Yeah. But also there's a lot of guys that live in that area that have great business contacts. And so my hope was the guys that are from that area would stay in that area and start hiring some of our guys as interns and as employees. And what happened was we are now very, very, we have a lot of guys in that area. And, so what we did is we developed a coaching playbook off the ice. So you have a coach's playbook on the ice. So we developed a coaching playbook off the ice. And what I tried was, freshman year, a lot of these guys are 21 years old. So going to school, you're kind of drinking water through a fire hose. It's like, stay eligible, get your grades up, and just be a college student. And then their sophomore year, tried to get them into, all right, what do you want to do? And see if we couldn't find a job shadow with like a CFO or a CEO or a business leader, or have somebody come talk to the team and, the first semester of their sophomore year, to where they start thinking a little bit about life after hockey. And then in their second part of that year, we really wanted to make sure they did, something outside of what they did the first time, like another job shadow from there. And then their junior year, we were really looking at internships and how do we build your internship platform? Like, okay, you have so much hockey background, even if you're in sports management, let's do something outside of hockey. And, do we need to do one internship or two internships? And, how do we get it paid? And that was something that drove me to, make sure that our guys, really had success. And then their senior year, between Thanksgiving and Easter, I wanted to make sure that when they were done with school, they had a job. So it was, okay, how are we going to get you in front of job interviews, in front of student services, and make sure that you have, you walk right into a job, because that's a big life change going from, let's say me, Phil Sweeney as a hockey player, and Phil Sweeney, the boring accountant, right? Like that's a tough transition for these guys, because they've been a hockey player for 20 years, 15 years. And so going into the business world where nobody cares that you played hockey, they just want to make sure you get your reports done and you're at work on time and you're not, leaving them out to dry, is a tough transition. So we wanted to make sure that guys had their placement and they had their job when they were done with school. And so that was our off-ice playbook for our team. And so Network 38 came about because I started having coaches reach out to me while I was at DU about helping place some of their guys, like whether it was in Lansing or really in that triangle of like where we had a lot of guys. And so I started placing people for other teams. And when I was done with DU, I still want to help our guys. Like I'm still a resource to the Davenport guys, and not only helping them recruit every now and then, but, just making sure that the guys have their internships, they have their job, and coaches were still reaching out. And I noticed businesses were reaching out like, hey, do you have anybody available? Do you have anybody available? And I said, hey, there's a business here. Like, this is something that I can monetize. And so that's how Network 38 came about, like just creating that network of people that we have, and getting some of these great college athletes and student athletes that are looking for something to do, been done for and looking for a job, help them in what they're, finding either an internship or a career.
One of the things you just mentioned, and, I thought about it. I think about this at the high school level because I also do high school football. When a team's season is over, especially in the playoffs, that finality is like just like that. And when you're talking about like with the college, these kids, you mentioned it, it's their life. They've had a set schedule where they go to eat, when they study, and this is a life lesson. And I love this because it kind of transitions them into, the quote unquote real world that some of these athletes that never really had that, never prepared for it.
Yeah, it's gross, to be honest with you. What I've started noticing is, I've reached out to a lot of athletic programs and coaches, and, I had a job down in, I don't want to say the state's name, but I had a job down there, and I probably had 1,000 text messages, phone calls, and emails to universities, and didn't hear back more than, I think I had 5 responses. And it was disgusting. You know what I mean? It's $70,000 full benefits for somebody, any sport. Like, just give me a good athlete that they just wanted somebody to come in, work hard, that's a proven talent. And it was disappointing, like, to see that. And just so I'm hoping that my platform can also help coaches find a playbook for themselves, because these guys and girls are wizards. With what they do on the ice and on the court and on the field, like, the time and effort they put into it, it's like, if you put that time in off the ice or off the court, like, these kids would be so much more beneficial, and they would be so much farther ahead in life. It's something that I am passionate about, to make sure that these kids can, raise a family and be prepared for the real world.
Phil, one of the things that you've got on your webpage that stood out to me, one of the statements is the candidates with built-in discipline, teamwork, and reliability. Now, I get it. In order to be a college athlete, well, maybe more so when you and I were growing up or whatever, before all the NIL stuff. But at the ACHA level, for example, a lot of times these young men and women, they don't get like 6 p.m. ice time. They get 6 a.m. ice time, right, or 10 p.m. ice time. So you got to be disciplined enough to want to do that. You're structured, plus go to school, maintain the grades. And also the other thing with that is their organizational skills, because a lot of these men and women are like team presidents, and, and that gets lost because they're in charge of, financials and stuff like that, a lot of teams don't have to worry about that. And that is such an added skill that these kids can bring that I think you guys will be able to highlight.
Yeah, I'm really hoping to partner with the ACHA, just because I feel so strong with the product that we have, between all the men's and women's programs. I've had phone calls from California, Arizona, Texas, Ohio, out east now, a bunch of Michigan, of trying to, figure out, okay, how does this all work, right? Like, this thing is only 60 days old, and just like some of the outreach that we've had already, I'm a sucker for the ACHA. I want to make sure that ours are taken care of first. And I hope that the partnership is there in the future, because you're right, there's so many good kids that just do so much for these programs. I went to school at Kentucky, and our games were at midnight, and it was really weird. It was awkward waking up from a nap at 9 o'clock at night, because I was like, all right, I want to be to the rink 2.5 hours early, you wake up at 9:30 and you're like, or 9 o'clock, you're like, this is crazy. I'm about to go to a game. And, but yeah, I mean, then you did, sometimes I had to work on Sunday, and it's just like, the ACHA offers something that's very, very unique in that setting of people want to work and they know how to put that grind in, and they, a lot of these kids are just going to make corporations so much better and companies so much better. And that's the thing. I always hear people want athletes. Like I hear that all the time now. And so I'm excited to, deliver that. This
is such an exciting thing that you're doing. It's groundbreaking, but I think it's going to take off really well. And, it's just such, you just said it, they want the athletes, and it's with the skill set and the discipline. And I keep going back to that word discipline, but you see it. I mean, they have to be, or, these kids even playing, football, any sport, you got to maintain that discipline and skill level to be successful. And I think that does relay in life.
Yeah, it really does. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed is just when you hire an athlete, they're coachable. And so like if somebody screws up at work and you got to lay into them a little bit and like get them like going in the right direction, they take that, and it's almost a motivating factor instead of like crawling into a shell and just being like, oh, I'm upset, I'm going to quit or go somewhere else. Athletes like, oh, I need to quit screwing up. I need to grind this out and be better. And that's the thing I think companies need. They need that loyalty to their program of like what they're trying to build. And so what I'm hoping is I get these kids in, and I say kids, these people in, and as they move up, because they're going to be high end people, that they just keep hiring our people. So they get into the hiring position. And so that's where the network part really comes in, is we want to create networks inside these businesses and just keep hiring our own, similar to what we were doing at Davenport.
Well, Phil, this is exciting. I'm really excited for you doing this. I think this is going to be a huge success.
Thank you.
And I'm really excited to watch it grow, and ultimately watch and hear the success stories from the men and women that you help get these jobs, and the businesses that will thrive from this too.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I really do. Like I said, if there's coaches out there that, have players that are looking for jobs, reach out. If companies are looking to hire, let me know. Just in Grand Rapids alone right now, I have 5 candidates that are, lights out. Like one of the candidates I just met with today, she's looking at 2 different jobs right now, but she's a 3.92 in her master's degree. Captain of the volleyball team, interned at Myers, started selling dog toys, and then was doing data analytics by the end of her time there. A guy played pro hockey in the East Coast who's in his master's degree. Just, I'm just coming across like a lot of these stories where you're like, this is another great kid. I'd love to. I got to quit calling them kids. Just another great athlete that just needs to be, helped out. And the biggest thing for them is, which I think is the most unique factor of this, is there's no cost to the student athlete. There's no cost to the team, and there's no cost to the university. So what we do, it's just another set of eyes for them. And, I had another athlete, she got a job, and, I was the first one to send her a congratulations card and say, I wish you nothing but the best. And when you get into that hiring position, hopefully you call me. But so there's a cost to the company that is, going to place them, but it's still, it's pretty minimal.
Oh, and it's going to be well worth it for sure, because you get a quality person to fill that position, and you're going to be so happy with them. Phil, again, thanks for coming on tonight. I'm excited to watch you grow with network38.org, and hopefully we'll see you around the rinks. Maybe we'll see you for the Grand Rapids Sports Hall of Fame tournament in December.
I'll be there for sure. I can't get away from it. So I appreciate you having me on. I really do. This has been, I really do appreciate it. And
my pleasure. Anytime. We'll have you on again real soon.
Cool.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
All right. Phil Sweeney, longtime head coach at Davenport University, as you mentioned, his credentials, I think 3 national titles at Division II and Division I. Now the founder and CEO of network38.org. Check out the website, and it's definitely a great venture, and it's good. He helps get these successful athletes, very disciplined athletes. Again, I go back to that word. I've said it a million times, but that's what these kids are. All right. Yes, we got to stop calling them kids. These young men and women, they are, again, they're very disciplined, teamwork, just, organized. I watch it every year that I've been involved in the ACHA. They have to be, because not only do they play, but they've got to get the good grades. But the ice time is at all hours of the night. They've got to organize their team activities. The biggest thing is, I'll give these examples, like at the Division II and the Division III level, the men's side, when they had these regional tournaments. You win, all of a sudden the euphoria rubs off or wears off. Then you realize you've got 2 weeks to get all that extra money that you need to go and to get everything organized, classes, the whole 9 yards. That's what these kids do. That's what they bring. Their enthusiasm, their discipline, their organizational skills. So use network38.org. I know that you'll be happy to have it. All right, we're going to take a quick break and then wrap it up. We'll again go over the Division I rankings, and then we'll call it a show as episode 5 coming to a close, season 10 of the ACHA Power Play. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hi, everybody. Captain Lou here. Hey, is there a ball game you want to go to last minute? How about the Spartans at Spartan Stadium? Go to the Big House to watch the Wolverines. Is there an NFL game you want to go to? Lambeau Field, Ford Field, wherever, Baltimore. How about the Tigers for the pennant drive? Well, go to SeatGeek. Get those tickets there. Use the promo code Captain Lou right on the screen, and you'll get $20 off of your purchase. It's that simple. So go to the Spartan game. Go to the Big House. But use the promo code Captain Lou at SeatGeek, and you'll be all set. Again, thanks to Phil Sweeney, founder and CEO of network38.org, for coming on to talk about what he's got going on. And again, just a great program, getting internships and placing these young men and women in great jobs, looking for people that need great workers and just great human beings. That's network38.org. All right. Real quick, before we end the show tonight, we started doing the men's rankings in Division I. These are the last coaches' rankings. The important ones come out this week. That's the first computer rankings that rank the top 24 teams. And so let's go through these again. We mentioned it. UNLV is at number 1. Minot is at number 2. Ohio is at 3. Adrian is at 4. Liberty 5. Jamestown 6. Drury 7. Niagara 8. Maryville 9. Calvin at 10, Grand Canyon at 11, University of Mary at 12, Utah at 13, Pittsburgh at 14, Arizona 15, Oklahoma 16, Purdue Northwest at 17, Westchester at 18, Hope College at 19, Indiana Tech at 20, Grand Valley State at 21, and Delaware at 22, Rhode Island 23, Oswego at 24, and Midland at 25. So there you go. There's the rankings for the men in Division I and Division III. The D2 men's rankings are coming out very soon, and as well as the women's D2 rankings. So a lot to look forward to. Now it's starting to get exciting because you get the rankings out. You start to see where these teams are at, what they need to maybe do, or what position they got to be, what they're going to be in, and whatnot, as the road to St. Louis and the national tournament in 2026 is again in full gear. Also, some big games coming up always in the week this weekend, but we talked about it with Tom and Lange, the head coach at Maryville. They're going to be traveling number 4 against number 2, the rematch of last year's championship game in women's Division I. It's Liberty and it's Maryville. Midnight Madness. Those are always so much fun at La Jolla. So again, that's going to be our spotlight weekend series, is the women's D1 matchup between number 2 Liberty and number 4 Maryville. That ought to be one heck of a weekend series. All right, that's going to do it. Another ACHA Power Play in the books. We will be back now every week through St. Louis with our episodes now that we've hit November. So we'll be back next Tuesday, 7:00 Eastern time, for another edition of the ACHA Power Play. I want to thank Tommy Lange, the head coach of Maryville, again for stopping by to tell us about their squad. Again, ranked number 4 in the country, looking to get back into that championship game and take that next step. I know that's down the road, but that's in the back of their minds with that monster schedule that they have. But again, thanks to Tom for coming on, talking a little Maryville hockey. And again, Phil Sweeney as well, longtime former coach at Davenport, now founder and CEO of Network38.org. Great program, a great business that he's got going. And it's going to be a success, I can tell. All right. And I want to thank you, the viewer, for taking time out to be with us tonight, watching us here on the ACHA Power Play here on the Captain Lou Sports Network, watching us on your laptops, computers, iPhones, however you watch us, right here on the Captain Lou Sports Network. Okay, enjoy the hockey this weekend. I know I will. I've got a big matchup that I get to call Friday night with 2 ranked teams, with Calvin at number 10 and Purdue Northwest at number 17. They've got a home and home Thursday and Friday. I'll get to catch up with Carl Trozine, the head coach of Purdue Northwest. Always fun talking with Carl as well. So, all right, everybody, thanks for joining us. This reminder, keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next Tuesday again for another edition of the ACHA Power Play. So long.